Welcome to the Heavy Spoiler Show. I'm your host, Paul. Not having a good day. I woke up and I had a copyright strike on a Spider-Man Far From Home video from 2019 because I used some Captain America fan art and someone's claiming they own the rights to Captain America. So I'm not in a good mood, but a very important article has just dropped by the Hollywood Reporter from George R.R. Martin. As always, his interviews reveal a lot of things. He doesn't exactly bite his tongue, so I thought we'd just go through it and kind of discuss everything that happens in it and what he reveals about both the relationship between House of the Dragon, what's coming for the future, and lots of different things. We don't normally do these kinds of videos where I just read out an article, but we have kind of done this one about the author in the past. And this is quite a nice follow-up to that, and I feel it basically goes into a lot of things that the guy's been up to and what his thoughts are on things happening behind the scenes. So, the first big thing that he's kind of divulged straight away is that the concern Martin has at the moment isn't finishing the Winds of Winter and basically finishing that series. It's that he has material for 100 other shows and they just don't know how much they're actually going to be able to make. And he's kind of, just a brainstorm of ideas. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is, of course, just about a start. I have seen the first episode, really enjoyed it. It's a very small scale, I will say. You're not getting it over-the-top stuff, but I actually found that was quite charming, and it's quite low-key and intimate. Not really a massive amount of things happen in it, but you just get to learn who the characters are, really jive with them, and yeah, it's a great first entry in... It kind of feels like the first episode of Game of Thrones, where it's not big and bombastic or anything. You're just kind of learning who these people are, and yeah, I thought it was quite a good introduction. And breakdowns will be out on the channel Sunday. Now, one thing he revealed is that he's actually 1,100 words through A Song of Ice and Fire's final book, and that he's hoping that he can finally close it out. Just Paul from the future. Basically, this is why I hate doing off-the-cuff stuff. So yeah, I've looked it up. This isn't even the final book. However, he has actually admitted that he's kind of retroactively responded to the TV show and won't be doing things that happen in the final season of Game of Thrones. For example, he said the ending of his Ice and Fire books is not going to align with the show, and he wants to avoid further canonizing the throne's controversial ending, even though he hasn't written his own yet. The book's ending is going to be significantly different, Martin says. Some characters who are alive in my book are going to be dead in the show, and vice versa. There's been lots of theories behind the scenes that Sansa would be the one who dies in the books, whereas they kept her alive in the series, and Martin does admit in the interview that, yes, I actually quite like Sansa, and I have gone back and forth on whether to keep her alive or not. There's also been discussion around the sequel. You might remember a couple of... I think it was last year, it was announced that they were doing a Jon Snow spin-off that would follow on directly from the events of it. Martin has actually said that Kit Harington was initially considered like the person who'd be the safest bet and where to take things. And apparently they basically mapped out a tale with Snow living as a broken man with PTSD. He's basically chased off Ghost, thrown away his sword Longclaw, and has spent his time building cabins and burning them down and then building them back up again. However, they did kind of decide that the whole broken Jon Snow thing, this is obviously, quite a big trope where you join a character years down the line and find that they're a complete shell of themselves. And in the end, they've ultimately decided to go in a totally different direction. Now, they have mentioned that the possibility could be that they then shift to Arya, who was one of the characters that, loads of people like from the show, and she sailed off into worlds unknown come the end of the season. That's apparently in very early development. However, HBO's apparently being very cautious about handling this one. We are interested and excited by the prospect of a sequel, but also keenly aware of how high the bar of execution needs to be. They also basically discussed how getting these actors back is going to be one of the difficulties, and even Kit Harington has said he wants to be nowhere near Jon Snow ever again. Basically, so the other day he was talking about the final season and saying like how angry he was that fans wanted it rewritten, which I can kind of understand if you've put like your blood, sweat and tears into stuff and saying like how dare you, but it shows that he's probably sick of having to deal with this, talking about this whole thing. Now, where stuff gets a bit more revealing and controversial is that Martin basically comes out and says that he believes that book adaptations should be as faithful as possible and basically get everything down. This is something he's talked about in lots of different interviews and stuff, where he basically believes that if you're adapting something, it's basically on you to adapt it as close as you can to the source material. That's obviously a massive thing amongst fans as well. If you love something, you obviously want to see it brought to life, and that basically means just remaking it in a different format. Sure, you'll get some changes along the way. Sometimes you'll get improvements if fans have, a fault with something. If a showrunner can take that feedback and then bring it into a show and make it better, fantastic. But yeah, a lot of the time, fans like me, we just kind of want basically what we love, the thing that we love about it, adapted and brought to the screen in as true a way as possible. Now, the last time we did a video on this, we did talk about how George was kind of struggling with what was happening behind the scenes when it came to House of the Dragon, and how him and Ryan Condal had basically been at complete loggerheads. He came out and said he didn't like the direction that things were going. There were characters who weren't introduced who should be because they're so important down the line, and basically ended up deleting that blog. But the internet's forever, obviously. So we read it out. But yeah, it was very, very controversial. So when asked on his relationship with Ryan Condal, he said it was worse than Rocky. It's abysmal. Martin's biggest gripes are apparently about how Dragons was stepping too far away from his book's character and how that was impacting key plot points. Martin's also a bit annoyed, it comes across here, because he says he hired Ryan and he thought that Ryan and him were going to be partners. They went through the first season all together. He would read the early drafts of scripts, would give notes, and he would change some things, and apparently it was really working well. Or at least he thought that. However, things changed when it came to House of the Dragon Season 2, and Martin says that Ryan basically stopped listening to him. He apparently would give notes, nothing would happen, and sometimes he'd explain why he wasn't doing it. Other times, though, he would just tell me like, okay, I'll think about that. And yeah, if you're ever in like a boardroom or situation or something, or in a job, and you're like, can I have this done? And someone's like, well, I'll try and do it. That means no. That is a tip for you in life. If you ever ask someone to do it and they're like, okay, yeah, I'll try, they've already decided they're not going to do it. So a little tip for you there. And that's basically what it sounds like. Apparently it got worse and worse, and Martin became more and more annoyed, and it got to the point where he was told by HBO he should submit all his notes to them, and they would then give Ryan their combined notes. This is then kind of when we got to the post in 2024, where Martin wrote a blog post called Beware the Butterflies. That basically went through all of his gripes. Again, we've done a video of it on the channel, but it basically talked about how a butterfly flap, the butterfly effect, little tiny things can have massive repercussions down the line, and how in not adapting things 100% or introducing characters that they should have, then this is going to have major repercussions down the line where things wouldn't work out or have the desired impact that they really should have. There's lots of characters coming who play pivotal parts who haven't been introduced yet, and yeah, he was basically saying, where the fuck are these guys? They need to be here by now. Now, apparently this led to the relationship deteriorating further, and during a Zoom call with the show's producers and some HBO executives, they basically came in and tried to like line out where season 3 was going to go. In the end, Martin basically brought forth a lot of his objections and was told, this is not your story any longer. So far, Condal hasn't commented on this. He has said that he's tried to include George in all of the adaptation process, but apparently he was just unwilling to acknowledge the practical issues at hand in a reasonable way. And yeah, not to be like, I can see things from both sides. I think both sides are great, but a lot of fans have kind of fired back at George, especially, and said that, look, he takes so long to write things, which, yeah, let's be fair, that him giving notes might be so dense and completely unworkable, or they might take ages to come through and be things that are just not possible to implement. Because look, if we're looking at how you make a TV show, there's lots of practical things. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there have seen the Stranger Things 5 making of, which I thought was like a parody at points because of how badly managed it all seemed to be. But that is basically what's going on all the time. And obviously people have deadlines, they have schedules they have to hit. There's certain things that they go back and think, oh, should we have done that? Oh crap, we're already in the middle of making this, and reshoots and stuff. Obviously everything can be a nightmare, and we're at a point now with TV shows where it can be like years and years between seasons, and you can lose a lot of the fan base during that time. So you really want to kind of make things as streamlined as possible, not waste money, and also do it in a way that you feel you can get behind. Because if you've got someone behind you giving you notes all the time and you've kind of worked things out, I can see how that would be frustrating. But also there's of course the other argument of like, this is George R.R. Martin's world, you're just adapting it, do what the fuck he says, basically. So yeah, lots of viewpoints you can have there. Obviously he created it, he's the one and the brains behind it that's making them the money. So both, I can see things from both sides, I will say. Now, in touching upon Winds of Winter, he actually brought up a fan event at Worldcon that you might have seen, where a fan stood up and basically asked if he was going to be able to finish the book because he wasn't going to be around for much longer. The audience booed, and Martin has actually commented on that question and said, like, I felt like I was being slapped. What made things worse is that he then checked online and saw that lots of people were like, well, look, he is going to die soon. And that made him feel even worse. He says, I didn't really need that shit. Nobody needs that shit. And yeah, I do think social media kind of treats other people as like this abstract thing that doesn't have feelings. And we know fine well that people go online and look themselves up. So if you read lots of comments about people being nasty to you who you don't know, you fucking take it. You can take it the wrong way a lot. Well, not even the wrong way. You can take it how it's written, but those people don't necessarily have empathy towards you because they don't see you as an actual person. You're kind of like a figure that they want to deliver something. But yeah, Martin has said he's going to finish the book. Again, he's 1,100 pages into it, and he said what's distracted him is basically all the other stuff that he's having to deal with, like writing notes for people who aren't even going to read them. I do kind of feel from reading this, and what he says is that he feels the best and worst thing that could have happened to him is basically the success of Game of Thrones, as that's kind of derailed his entire the work ethic that he had and getting this series finished, and basically having to make it while it was being made on TV, and the success that it became has kind of made it so it's almost impossible to do, because he's having to basically balance with fans' expectation around the show. Do I do certain things that have happened in that? Do I go the opposite way? And there's lots of creative ways you could go that it's sort of like impossible to nail down and focus on one specifically, because you just have so many ideas, so much feedback from fans, so many things that you think went right in the show, but also people are saying that went wrong, and there's things that you think went wrong and they think it went right. So I can totally imagine how frustrated you would be with dealing with this kind of thing, where you got a constant loop of expectations and feedback while you're trying to just sit and write something out. He's also said that Tyrion is probably going to die in his version. Spoiler alert there, but he says that basically the whole point of that character is like tragedy, and that's it. Soz. I was gonna kill more people, he muses. Not the ones they killed in the show. They made it more of a happy ending. I don't see a happy ending for Tyrion. His whole arc has been tragic from the first. I was going to have Sansa die, but she's been so appealing in the show. I'll let her live. Maybe that's a trick though when she dies as well. But yeah, beyond that, he says he thinks he has more Duncan Egg to write. They have announced that they're going to be doing lots of different seasons of the shows, and that he's actually given like 10 to 12 outlines of where the story could be going to the showrunner, so they have lots of stuff to pick up on. There's also apparently another Fire and Blood book coming. I don't know how that's going to go, because obviously Fire and Blood is kind of a prequel textbook that goes through all the family trees, and it's going to be difficult to see how we have Game of Thrones and then that spiraling from. I keep calling it Game of Thrones. I'm going to get so much shit. It's a Song of Ice and Fire. But yeah, basically the interview ends by him saying he's so far behind on everything and sighing, which, yeah, he has got a lot on his plate, to be fair. And I do think that's the main thing that's holding up the book. You know, I'm someone who does want him to finish his story. Obviously, you know, I don't know how to say this in a respectful way, so I probably won't say it, but yeah, I'm obviously someone who wants him to finish A Song of Ice and Fire. I think that would be fantastic. I've actually got them all behind me there, and there's like a lonely corner where I've kind of put No Country for Old Men in the road there, that's sitting there, but it's waiting just for that collection to drop in and slide at the back. Will it ever happen? I don't know. If I was him, mate, I would just get AI I would get the AI to write the whole book, skim through it and go, that seems good enough. I'll change that bit. I'll hand it up. I'm joking, by the way. But yeah, I think fan frustration and expectation kind of centers around that project, because he's doing so many other things that's almost like, well, can you not just do this? But he's creating so much great work. And again, Seven Kingdoms is a really good first episode, at least. It's such a strange thing with House of the Dragon, because I felt season 1 was so good. Season 2 started off really good. You had the blood and cheese thing, and then you had the Battle of Rook's Rest, and then you had the Dragon Pit stuff. But then for the finale, it kind of went off into a really weird place. And I remember doing my review at the time and saying that it felt like episode 8 in a 10-episode season. It was just really a weird point to cut off. And obviously he's voiced his frustrations with certain characters not being there. I'm still hopeful that the show could be good, but I do kind of think it's hitting that point of like The Witcher, where it starts off really good, then you start to see some issues arise, and over time, like the creative team and the direction, it just goes in totally different. It's almost in an opposition to what the fans want, and ultimately this causes lots of issues. So I am hopeful that the season will be good. I'm really just curious to see where they go with it. Obviously, you know, George R. R. Martin has got lots of things in the fire right now, lots of prongs in the fire of projects that he's working on. So I think even if this is bad, there are going to be interesting things. And they've actually also, I've totally skipped over an Aegon the Conqueror. They've basically said that they're going to either do The Conquest as either a series or a standalone film. I hope they go with the film because I'd love to see Game of Thrones on the big screen. But yeah, that's everything we learned from the interview. I don't really like doing these kind of videos again. You can probably see why. But yeah, love to hear your thoughts on it. This was kind of just me rattling off my initial reaction to it. And yeah, let me know all your comments below because there's quite a lot of stuff. And is there anything I missed in the article? Because we did skim through a lot. It's a very, very long one. And I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Without the way though, thank you for sticking through this video. I've been your host, Paul. You've been the best and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.